The seventh galaxy, on the fifth broken star, the Silver Belt Sea. A three-masted tin sailboat is sailing on this silvery sea. The old mast was swaying in the gust of sea breeze, and was tied by 6 or 7 rough ropes underneath, so that it would not be broken just like that. There were a group of people sitting on the boat, all of them were men. From 15 or 16-year-olds to middle-aged bald men in 40 or 50 years. Everyone was filthy, filled with a stinky stench that couldn't be dissipated, like rolling in a stinky ditch. Among them, a young man of 17 or 18 was standing on the inconspicuous edge of the deck. She has scattered black hair, and the color of the original fabric is not clearly visible in her shorts. The same dirty face is not very clear, except for a pair of bright eyes, which looks quite energetic. 3 months. The young man sighed. This is the time he came to this world. The young man's name is Wang Yu, and he was a game designer in his 30s before crossing the road. Once at work, I fell asleep at 3 o'clock in the morning, and when I woke up, I traveled here inexplicably. The predecessor of this body was a child laborer in a mine, with the same name as Wang Yu, but he was much more miserable than him. Seems to be exhausted. After the memory fusion, Wang Yu took over this identity and stayed in a mine for 3 months. Only after the half-year period expires will they be eligible to leave the mine and return to work. The sound of the sailboat breaking the waves was louder than expected, and many fish corpses rolled out from the waves and floated on the sea like this, braving the wet and salty stench. In my memory, every half a year in this Silver Belt Sea, a deadly germ will multiply in the seawater, which can kill 70% of the creatures in the sea. At this time, this sea will become a poisonous sea. If Wang Yu can't go for a swim at this time, there will be no return. Xiaoyu, go back and relax and eat more. Next time you come again, don't be so thin, it's not easy to work. A shirtless, strong man walked up to Wang Yu and said. The big man's stubble looked like he hadn't taken care of it for a long time, leaning on the rail with a relaxed expression. After staying in the dark mine for a long time, even if I am now in the deadly poisonous sea, I only feel comfortable and free. Uncle Meng, thank you for taking care of me during this time. Wang Yu said gratefully. Meng Lao waved his hands indifferently. You're about the same age as my son, it's not easy here, it's nothing. Wang Yu didn't say anything, he wasn't a talkative person. The days in the mine made him almost autistic, and only silently remembered Mr. Meng in his heart. But if you are lucky and find some work outside, then don't come back. Meng Lao sighed. This miner is not a good job, and the people who can come here are basically desperate people. It is normal to be exhausted in a mine. The sailboat docked. After getting off the boat, all the miners immediately left, including Meng Lao. He couldn't wait to go back to see his wife and children at home. Wang Yu looked around, and they landed on an archipelago. In fragmented star number 5, 90% of the area is ocean, and only the remaining 10% is land islands. Excluding many unexploitable extreme environments, there are actually very few places for human habitation and development on this fragmented star. Therefore, it is defined as a semi-habitable planet. 732 Island Town. The name has no other meaning. The island is named as the natural island number 732, so the town on the island is also called the island town of number 732. All the past memories of Wang Yu's predecessor are here. An old super-large iron pickup truck came on, kicking up large swathes of sand and dust on the ground. Wang Yu calmly stepped aside for 2 steps. The truck passed him and arrived at the coast to dump a truckload of foul-smelling garbage into the Sea of Silver Belts. Although it was the first time I saw it, I remembered it was not surprising. Almost all the garbage produced in the town will be thrown into the sea simply and rudely. The huge flora of the Silver Belt Sea will nibble away most of the garbage, and only some hard substances will sink to the bottom of the sea. As for whether the ring is not environmentally friendly, it was never something that Master Broken Star should consider. A gravel-paved, rather sloppy stone road entered the town along the coast. Rat Street is a dilapidated old-fashioned housing area, where many destitute people live in hardships. When Wang Yu returned to Mouse Street, the sky was already dark. Squeezing the wages in his trousers pocket, Wang Yu carefully walked under the shadow of the room, all the way to the outside of one of the buildings. He didn't go in right away, but looked around for a while, and walked quickly upstairs after he didn't see the evil in his memory. His residence is on the 4th floor of this building, a small room. Looking at the glass window that had been shattered by someone, Wang Yu's expression remained unchanged, and he opened the door and walked in. No one lived there for half a year, and the small room was already full of dust. Wang Yu immediately noticed a footprint on the ground, as well as the traces of the bedboard cabinet being turned over. Contacting the broken glass window again, it is not difficult to guess that someone visited his house during this time. Fortunately, Wang Yu also knew the morals of the people in the area of Mouse Street. Before leaving, he had already hidden almost everything, leaving only an empty room. I believe that the thieves who patronize are also quite disappointed. Wang Yu was too lazy to tidy up, so he went straight into the bathroom to wash up. Thankfully there was still some water coming out of the water outlet. I haven't had such a comfortable cleaning for a long time. There is not so much water available near the mine. After cleaning, Wang Yu put on a set of clean clothes that he carried with him, and looked at himself in his glasses. At the age of 17, he was much more immature than in the previous life. I don't know, because of the long time in the mine where the sun did not see the light, and the skin that had been rubbed off the mud looked a little pale. The face is not ugly, but it is a little gloomy, and it does not look like a good person. The body is shriveled, not strong because of mining, but looks like malnourished. It is true that he has not been eating well in the past few months. In addition to the daily heavy physical exertion, it is normal that his nutrition cannot keep up. Wang Yu didn't stay in the room for too long and left quickly. He came to a small wood on Mouse Street, and while no one was around, he turned over a large rock and a pile of fallen weeds, and began to dig up the soil under his feet. After a while, a small package from memory appeared in front of him. It's not heavy, and when I pick it up, it still dings inside. Seeing that the package was still there, Wang Yu was overjoyed and immediately opened the package. Inside was a roll of crumpled star tickets and a few crystals the size of fingernails. A little bit of inventory, a lot of points. After the star ticket was converted, plus the shards in the package, there were 565 shards in total. This is all the money Wang Yu had saved by living frugally and trying his best. Plus the remuneration for half a year's work in this mine. Enough. Wang Yu's eyes lit up, he tidied up a little, and quickly left the grove, walking hurriedly along the way. Qinggang Street, the afterglow of the setting sun is pouring on the streets and alleys. The people who live on this street are relatively decently dressed, unlike the poverty of the residents of Mouse Street. There are also some shops on the street selling firewood, rice, oil, and salt. 3 or 2 people visited it, and their trading method was those broken crystals in Wang Yu's hands. This is the common currency. Opposite the door of a small restaurant is a relatively spacious courtyard. There is a sign on it. Shadowless Boxing Gym. Wang Yu looked up, took a deep breath and walked in. In the courtyard, a group of men and women dressed in uniforms were shouting and drinking. The young ones are only 11 or 12 years old, and the older ones look like they are in their 20s or 30s. Some were stomping on horses and holding boulders. Looking at them, they weighed 50 to 60 pounds, and they were dripping with sweat. Others kept hitting the wooden or iron stakes, flipping their hands up and down, and the 2 older men shot so fast that Wang Yu was a little hard to catch with the naked eye, and could only see a few points. After image. Seeing is believing, which makes Wang Yu even more determined. What this boxing gym teaches is not the gimmicks I saw in my previous life. Which one are you looking for? One of the older men stopped practicing and noticed Wang Yu who came in, so he walked over and asked. I'm here to apprentice. Wang Yu said immediately. The man looked at Wang Yu up and down, not surprised. Every few days, a young man like Wang Yu would come to study with a teacher. These days, martial arts is a way out that can be seen and felt. Of course, if you want to become famous, it's not that easy. After all, this is real Kung Fu. In addition to enduring hardships, it also requires everyone's innate aptitude. Root bone, comprehension can't be too bad, otherwise training will be a waste of time, energy, and money. Master is not here today, come back tomorrow. The man said. As soon as Wang Yu heard that it was so unfortunate, he was about to give up. Suddenly there was a tall, thin middle-aged man with a goatee beard. It seemed that he had just returned from outside the door, but his feet were silent. When he walked to Wang Yu's side, he was only noticed by the male disciple. The male disciple immediately said respectfully, "Master, you are back." Yet, Sun Chengshan put his hands behind his back and looked at Wang Yu with his tiny eyes. The male disciple immediately continued, "He came to learn martial arts today. You were away just now, so I will ask him to come back tomorrow." Sun Chengshan glanced at Wang Yu, his face remained flat. "Do you know my rules?" "I know." Wang Yu handed over a neatly arranged stack of star tickets. There are 10 denominations and 100 denominations, adding up to 1,000 fragments of crystal coins. As early as more than a year ago, the predecessor of Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com Wang Yu had already inquired about all the martial arts halls in the whole town. Every martial arts gym has to charge tuition fees for its apprentices. Among them, this Wuying Gymnasium on Qinggang Street has the lowest tuition fee, only 1,000 fragments of crystal coins. In the past, Wang Yu desperately saved money to find a way to practice martial arts. Now Wang Yu wants to try martial arts, not for anything else, but because of a small interface that often pops up in his mind. Name: Wang Yu. Race: human. Repair: none. Martial arts skills: none. This small piece of interface, once used as a game designer, is too familiar. He learned martial arts just to see if the interface in his mind was an illusion, or a small piece of game interface that he had not finished designing and had traveled through together. Sun Chengshan had seen many people who came to apprentice over the years. With his eyesight, he could naturally see that the money was probably all Wang Yu's net worth. To be able to hand over the money in such a smooth manner, facing him with a calm and not nervous and flustered face, would surpass most of his peers. "Where do you live?" Sun Chengshan asked, not knowing if it was for the sake of money. His tone softened a little. "Beisha Street." Wang Yu replied respectfully. Naturally, Rat Street is not really called Rat Street. The official block name is Beisha Street. It's just that the place became more and more dirty and messy, attracting a large group of rat ants, so it was privately known as the Rat Street. Yet, Sun Chengshan nodded, and it was very different from what he thought. "Don't worry, no matter the source of the disciples I accept here, as long as the tuition can be paid, I will give you a chance. Your mind is relatively calm, come in." Sun Chengshan said lightly, and walked slowly into the yard with his hands behind his back. When the disciples in the courtyard saw the master coming back, they immediately practiced more earnestly and diligently, and the shouts in their mouths were louder than ever before. Sun Chengshan glanced over, showing a satisfied look, and walked to the edge of the yard. There is a well-made taishi chair and a matching small coffee table. This is his special seat. He didn't sit down at this moment, he just picked up a cup of tea made by the disciple on the coffee table, and said lightly to Wang Yu, "Take a horse step." Wang Yu was stunned for a moment, then quickly glanced at a few disciples in the courtyard who were stomping on horses, and his waist sank as he did. It's just that his stance is much worse than that of a real trainer, and it's unsteady to look at. Sun Chengshan didn't care either, he stretched out his hands to knead and beat Wang Yu everywhere. "All right." After a while, Sun Chengshan pulled his hand away and asked Wang Yu to get up. Wang Yu couldn't see what Sun Chengshan was thinking, so he just followed suit. Hejin, come on. Sun Chengshan sat on the chair of the Grand Master and waved to the older disciple beside him. Yes, Master. Song Hejin said sternly, striding forward to the courtyard. I only demonstrated it 3 times, and wrote down all the details of my movements as much as possible. Song Hejin finished speaking, and without waiting for Wang Yu to respond, he had already taken a stance. He folded his belly and lifted his breath, then stepped up and punched out. Snapped. The fist was as fast as lightning, piercing the air with a crisp sound. Then the second punch, the third punch. Song Hejin roamed around, his steps were steady with a certain pattern, and he moved with his fists. Wang Yu's eyes widened, Song Hejin showed him a set of boxing skills. Guessing that this should also be a test before entering the apprenticeship. He didn't dare to be careless and focused on Song Hejin's every move. It didn't take a moment for Song Hejin's fist to stop abruptly. This is the first time. After a simple reminder, he started from the beginning for the second time, and his punches were still smooth, and every movement seemed to be exactly the same. Wang Yu secretly complained in his heart. At the end of the first time, he quickly reviewed it in his mind, but he only remembered a few amazing punches from Song Hejin, more of which were vague. After all, he had never been in contact with martial arts before, and he was relying on his memory to remember. The second time also ended quickly, and Song Hejin kept playing for the third time. Wang Yu stood motionless, his eyes never leaving him. By the end of Song Hejin's second time, he had already written down a lot. After the third time, he was somewhat confident that he could restore most of Song Hejin's actions in his memory. After punching, Song He's face was as usual, and he didn't catch his breath. This amount of exercise didn't even make him sweat. This is the half set of basic boxing styles of my shadowless fist. Show me what you wrote down. Sun Chengshan had already drank half a cup of tea, and only said to Wang Yu after Song Hejin walked to his side. Wang Yu rarely does anything he is not sure about, but this time he can only bite the bullet. Swinging his hands up, compared to Song Hejin, an orthodox disciple, he naturally lost a bit of momentum and his movements were not quite standard. Wang Yu couldn't control that much, so he forced himself to calm down and restore as many details of the movements as possible according to his memory. After half a set of basic punches, Wang Yu was quite satisfied with his performance. In such a short period of time, he believed that he could memorize so many movements, and he connected them in a good manner, which was considered an extraordinary performance. Sun Chengshan nodded when he saw it, the bones are so-so, but the savvy and intelligence are not bad. Then Wang Yu was overjoyed. Although his evaluation was not high, as long as he could practice martial arts, it would be fine. As long as you can practice a little bit of success, you can survive in this world, and you won't go to the mines to work until you die. Sun Chengshan squinted his eyes and snorted softly, don't be too happy, it takes time, effort and money to practice martial arts. Long term aside, if you can't practice the first level of bodybuilding with me within 3 months, it will prove that martial arts are not for you, and you will be left on your own at that time. You have to think carefully about it. I've thought about it clearly, please accept me. Wang Yu didn't hesitate at all, his expression was firm, and he offered the tuition fee with both hands. That night, Wang Yu stayed at the boxing gym. This 1,000 tuition fees are not for nothing. In name, he is now a tentative disciple of the boxing gym, and he can stay in the gym. The courtyard of the boxing gym is quite large, and there are several rows of rooms in depth. The room assigned by Wang Yu lived with 2 other tentative disciples. One is called Wang Sanhua and the other is called Li Niushan. Wang Sanhua is ordinary in appearance, small in stature, and doesn't look like a child from a good family. He is 2 years younger than Wang Yu. Another Li Niushan, who lives up to his name, has dark skin, and is as strong as an ox. He is 20 this year. Brother Wang, we have an old ancestor, so we should take care of each other in the gym in the future. Wang Sanhua was the first to find Wang Yu, who was quite lively and talkative. I'm only tentative, maybe I'll be leaving in 3 months. Wang Yu shook his head. Who's not? I've been here for almost 2 months, and I haven't even touched a single shadow in the first forging. If I want to leave, I'll leave first. Wang Sanhua's bed is next to Wang Yu. Although Li Niushan is a simple and honest person, he is a boring gourd and doesn't speak for a long time. Wang Yu finally came, and he chatted endlessly. Wang Yu is also willing to communicate. Through Wang Sanhua, he learned a lot about the big and small things of the boxing gym in advance. For example, their master Sun Chengshan, who first came to number 732 Island Town for only 3 years, has built a boxing gym with great success. Relying on his personal powerful cultivation strength. It is said that with a set of unpredictable shadowless fists, he has just cultivated the 5th level strength of body forging. In the past 3 years, 3 martial arts hall masters have been selected in a row, and his reputation has risen. In fact, Wang Sanhua doesn't know much about the master Sun Chengshan. After all, he has only been here for about 2 months, and he mostly listens to what other disciples have to say. The next day, early in the morning, all the tentative disciples gathered in the courtyard and started a day of morning exercises. Song Hejin appeared an hour late and took the initiative to find Wang Yu. Yesterday you have seen the first half of the basic boxing, and then I will teach you the complete basic boxing of the shadowless boxing. Practice hard, and strive to reach the first weight of bodybuilding within 3 months. Song Hejin encouraged Wang Yu a little. He is the senior brother here, so he has the qualification to teach art on behalf of his teacher. Wang Yu couldn't wait, and nodded immediately. Song Hejin filled in the place where the punching path stopped abruptly yesterday, and finished a complete set of basic punches in front of Wang Yu. No more lag, until the end. You first write down this set of boxing styles and practice them. Remember, the more skilled the movements are, the better the training effect of the boxing will be. If you encounter any confusion in the process, you can come to me. Song Hejin Bugzu said without hesitation. Thank you senior brother for teaching. Wang Yu thanked him. Song Hejin nodded and then pointed to the other tentative disciples. Wang Yu immediately retracted his gaze and called up the panel in his mind. Name, Wang Yu race, human repair, Nun martial arts technique, shadowless fist basic fist, can be practiced, there is. Wang Yu clenched his fists tightly and watched the panel countless times, but this time there was finally a change. In the column of martial arts exercises, the basic Wu Yingchuan style taught by Song Hejin Gang appeared on it, and showed that it could be practiced. But, how do you practice? Wang Yu frowned, tried to use the basic boxing style to start his hand, and slammed into a punch. His punches are much better than yesterday, and they won't float too much. There was no movement on the panel. Seeing this, Wang Yu simply finished the whole set of basic punches. His physical strength was far inferior to Song Hejin. Even though his fighting was not up to standard and he was very unfamiliar, he was still sweating. The muscles all over the body felt a little sore and numb during exercise, which was very noticeable. So miraculous! Wang Yu was stunned for a moment, temporarily forgetting the panel in his mind, and focusing on this basic set of punches. Obviously it's just as nondescript as cats and tigers, but the effect of exercise is real. Is it the effect of these special force-generating movements? Wang Yu guessed inwardly. As he said, if the standard of this set of fighting is proficient, I am afraid that the level of physical training will be greatly improved. Now, Wang Yu was more interested in this boxing technique. After taking a short rest, he immediately opened his boxing technique again. A more standard first punch, slammed. +1 Wang Yu was stunned, what seemed to pop up in front of his eyes just now. Glancing at the panel, everything was the same as before, so he calmed down a little and punched again. +1 this time, Wang Yu saw it clearly. At the moment he punched just now, a+1 translucent number popped up from his punch. Although I still don't understand the meaning of the numbers on this fist, I can basically conclude that it has something to do with the panel in his mind. Last night, Wang Sanhua didn't mention this number. I'm afraid he is the only one who has this situation. Simply, Wang Yu finished a set of punches in one go. During the period, the translucent +1 appeared 11 times in total. It seems to be the game proficiency function I set. In order to confirm the assumption, Wang Yu began to repeat this basic boxing style over and over again. When you are tired, you take a rest, and after you take a rest, you continue to practice. He was dripping with sweat, and soon his clothes were soaked, but Wang Yu didn't notice it. I just felt hot all over my body, my heart was pounding, and my blood was boiling. His eyes became brighter and brighter, he would comprehend every time he performed a punch, and found out on his own a more standard detailed technique of exerting force, and he didn't need Song Hejin's on-site guidance at all. In just one day of Kung Fu, he has already played well, and he doesn't look like a young man who has just started. Even many of the tentative disciples who have been practicing for a month or two are not as proficient in boxing as Wang Yu. Many power nodes and skills can be learned without a teacher in one day, and the master actually said that his understanding is only acceptable. Song Hejin's mouth twitched slightly. Until he was about to let go, Wang Yu silently stopped. Endured the pain, his limbs became weak, and went back to rest. For a week after that, Wang Yu stayed in the courtyard to practice hard. His performance was the best among all the tentative disciples. Even Sun Chengshan, who appeared occasionally, would occasionally speak to Wang Yu when he was in a good mood. On the 8th day, Wang Yu still arrived early. The early morning practice boxing is particularly effective during the day. It is the golden hour of practicing boxing, and he cannot miss it. +1 +1 +1. The +1 number flashing on the fist, Wang Yu is no stranger to it. So far, with a basic set of punches, he has been able to hit 42 numbers, a lot more than at the beginning. Soon after finishing a set of moves, Wang Yu was still in the mood for the second round of punches seamlessly. This time, he suddenly felt that everything was different. In the past, he used to fight according to the established boxing style, and even if the boxing movements were standard, it would still seem a bit rigid and rigid. It's like a set of formulas in mathematics. But this time, he suddenly felt that it was not the case. There is a little more understanding in his heart, and his punches are more rounded. Every step and every punch seems to be natural, as if he designed it himself. No longer hard, some are only natural. Clap clap clap. The joints all over the body made a burst of crisp sounds, as if the book of changes were out of place. After this set was over, Wang Yu had to stop. At this time, he was already sweating like rain, his skin was flushed, and his muscles twitched from time to time. It's different. Wang Yu was a bit dazed and muttered to himself. Normally, 2 sets of punches are not enough to make him sweat so hard. There were also many stains in the sweat, which were oozing out of the pores like muddy water, accompanied by some unusual odors, which made him frown when he smelled it. Immediately went to the bathroom to wash up. Name, Wang Yu. Race, Human. Cultivation, Forging Body. 1 Weight. Martial Arts, Shadowless Fist. Basic Fist +1. This is a heavy forging. After rinsing, Wang Yu looked at his personal panel, full of surprise. According to Song Hejin, practicing martial arts is a process of water grinding, and it is not something that can be accomplished overnight. To become a top player overnight, this kind of thing can only be found in storybooks. Sun Chengshan gave each of the tentative disciples 3 months to practice martial arts. That is to say, 3 months is a qualified line. And it's only been 8 days, strictly speaking, more than 7 days. He is not sure if this progress is too much, maybe there are talented martial arts geniuses who can do it. But Wang Yu was sure that his aptitude was not, and it didn't even have anything to do with the word genius. With a so-so aptitude and an ordinary understanding of martial arts, this body is just an ordinary person. The only explanation is that the panel in his mind played an effect, allowing him to achieve this step. In fact, in the past few days, he has basically figured out the real function of the panel. That is to improve the proficiency of the martial arts exercises that can be practiced through gamification. Ordinary daily boxing practice over and over again can steadily improve the proficiency of the basic boxing style of Wu-Ying boxing. This kind of improvement is almost ignoring the limitations of one's own aptitude, such as perception and root. As long as you concentrate carefully, you can achieve the effect of improvement. Wang Yu accumulated it repeatedly in 8 days, and finally completed today's qualitative change. The basic boxing style on the panel has been upgraded by 1 level. In essence, he has officially reached the first level of shadowless boxing. Only in this way can one round of tempering of one's own physique allow it to simultaneously reach the physical strength of the first level of forging. After changing into a new set of clothes, Wang Yu began to feel the state of his body after the first step of forging. Obviously, the muscles all over his body have grown larger and are quite strong, which is very different from the thin body when he first started. This is the basis of his hard training for the past 8 days, but more of it is a qualitative change after breaking through to the first level of body forging at one time. Following that, a series of improvements in strength and speed burst. At this moment, when Wang Yu throws another punch, he really has a strong lethality. Would you like to tell the master now? Wang Yu thought to himself. He was weighing the pros and cons. How would Sun Chengshan and others react if they were told like this? Is this progress shown by him normal or not? Will it cause suspicion and cause trouble? These are all questions he has to consider. But he will not be informed until a month or 2 later, and he will not be able to get the follow-up practice of Wu Ying Chuan, and it will be a waste of time. The basic boxing style is only the first layer of shadowless boxing, and the forging effect is limited to the first level of cultivation. If Wang Yu wants to go further, he must acquire the following boxing techniques. I was worried, and just as I was about to return to the yard, I heard a shout from outside the door. I saw several disciples from Shadowless Boxing Gym hurried back with a seriously injured disciple. What's going on? Sun Chengshan, who was resting in the room, also came out after hearing the movement. A young male disciple who came back immediately said with a face full of grievances, Master, today we were eating and drinking in the tavern, and we met Wei Yiming from Jai Fengtang and Fang Xiao from Broken Tiger Knife Hall. They made unkind words to junior sister Lu in public, and even injured senior brother He Tai. What? It's too arrogant. When the disciples in the courtyard heard this, they immediately felt overwhelmed with anger. As a disciple of the same boxing gym, one prospered and one suffered a loss, and there was still some cohesion. In the crowd, Wang Yu also heard the whole story. He also had an impression of senior brother He Tai who was on the ground. He was also a very hard worker on weekdays. He was an earlier batch of disciples that Sun Chengshan received in this town. Now that he has achieved the second level of forging, his status in the academy is not bad. I didn't expect to be beaten like this when I was outside today. Hejin, take He Tai to the hospital. Ji Fei and you guys, come with me. Sun Chengshan didn't look good either. Naturally, this matter can't just pass by, otherwise he, the master, will not be able to explain to his disciples. Yes, master. Ji Fei stood up and nodded. He is nearly 1.9 meters tall, but he doesn't look strong and thin. He only has a pair of broad shoulders. Yuyuganshu www.yuyuganshu.com looks like a big skeleton. He is the disciple of the academy who is second only to senior brother Song Hejin in strength and status. He has already practiced the third level of body forging, and his shadowless fist has a bit of true heritage of Sun Chengshan. After ordering a few disciples, Sun Chengshan quickly left the boxing gym early in the morning and headed for Jai Fengtang. Song Hejin hurried to the hospital for treatment with He Tai, who had passed out from serious injuries. Only a pool of blood was left on the ground. This is not the first time that Ji Fengtang has targeted our boxing gym. Last time I took on a mission to help boxing, but it was also disturbed by the disciples of Ji Fengtang. Oh, there's no way, it's only been 3 years since the master came to town for the first time. After all, we're a new boxing gym, and there's nothing we can do to face the exclusion of those old-fashioned gyms. You are nothing, and a few senior brothers were beaten to death by them earlier. You said it was outrageous. An old disciple who has experienced a lot, sighed. Well, shouldn't the patrol team just ignore it? A tentative disciple shuddered when he heard the killing, and said a little shrinking. Come on, you don't know what's going on in our place. The officials at the top can't do anything. Those patrols don't bother to care about the mess between our martial arts halls. Then, Master, is he all right? Master's cultivation of the 5th level of body forging, what can happen, don't worry. Wang Yu's eyes flickered, he turned and left, temporarily not practicing boxing in the courtyard. There was a decision in my heart. It seems that the strength of the first layer of body forging is still not guaranteed outside. You can't waste time. You must get the back of Wu Yingchuan to practice as soon as possible. The world is rougher and more dangerous than he thought. It wasn't until noon that Sun Chengshan walked back with his disciple in a rage. There was a sharpness in the small slits that did not dissipate, which was completely different from the image of the master who was indifferent on ordinary days. The disciples in the courtyard kept their voices low, for fear of offending the master at this time. It was not until Sun Chengshan entered the back room that everyone breathed a sigh of relief. Hey, don't you know if you didn't go, our master is too powerful. At the beginning, Ji Fengtang and Duanhu Knife Museum were very tough, and they said that our master bullied the small. Later, the master got angry and went directly to He Xiang, the owner of the Jifeng Hall, and Ding Lei, the owner of the Broken Tiger Knife, and had 2 singles duels. Zhang Erden was excited like a storyteller, enjoying the moment surrounded by disciples. Afterwards, the disciples wanted to know the result of the duel, and many relatively rational disciples had already guessed the result from Zhang Erden's high-spirited expression. Of course our master won. The Ji Fengtang and the Broken Tiger Knife Museum are all just vain names. Zhang Erden grumbled, as if he had won the gym. When the disciples heard it, they all applauded, and they respected the master Sun Chengshan even more in their hearts. Counting these 2 games, Sun Chengshan has already completed 5 consecutive games in the town, all of which have ended in victory. This kind of record is not bad. The 5-layer forging is so terrifying. In the afternoon, Song Hejin came back alone. He Tai was seriously injured and needed to rest in the medical center for some time. When he came back, he only said that He Tai was no longer worried about his life and that he had been compensated accordingly. This incident has ended, and all the disciples should settle down and continue to practice boxing. After the disciples all dispersed, Wang Yu went to Song Hejin alone. Senior brother, I have something to ask for help. Song He Zhengjian was Wang Yu, and his expression softened a little. In the last few days, he has seen Wang Yu's rapid progress, and within 3 months, Wang Yu will definitely be able to reach the 1st level of forging. Not just a passerby in the boxing gym like the rest of the tentative disciples. Therefore, Song Hejin treated Wang Yu more politely than the other tentative disciples. Junior brother Wang, is there a problem with cultivation? Song Hejin asked in a gentle tone. Before he showed his skills, he couldn't see Wang Yu's true cultivation. I just feel that Wang Yu at this moment seems to be a little different from yesterday. No, I want to ask senior brother, how long did it take you to break through to the 1st level of body forging after you entered the gym? Wang Yu went straight to the topic and asked. Song Hejin showed a clear look and smiled slightly. In his opinion, the reason why Wang Yu asked this was because he was worried about his current cultivation progress, and he was afraid that he would not be able to achieve the first level of body forging within 3 months. In fact, Wang Yu was not the first person to ask him about his cultivation progress when he was a senior. Back then, he himself came here like this, which is quite normal. Before the master came here to open a boxing gym, I had already joined him. At that time, the master mentioned that my martial arts qualifications were not bad, so it only took me less than 2 months to officially reach my cultivation base. Heavy forging. Junior brother, you don't have to panic. From my point of view, your mastery of basic boxing is much faster than before. If you keep practicing at this rate, you should have no problem reaching the first weight in 3 months, and it may even be faster than me, not even 2 months. Song Hejin, as a past person, patiently comforted him. Dare to ask, senior brother is the fastest to complete the test among the disciples of the boxing gym? Wang Yu asked again. Song Hejin shook his head immediately. Of course not. Take the current junior brother Ji Fei as an example, his qualifications are better than mine, and it only took about a month and a half to achieve the first level of forging. In the past 3 years, there have been many talented disciples who have left the boxing gym, and there are also a few who are on the same level as junior brother Ji Fei. Among them, the fastest breakthrough in cultivation, I remember it only took a month. Compared with them, my senior brother is quite mediocre. Maybe people are now wandering outside, and they have already reached the realm of strength at the 4th level of forging or even higher. After listening to Wang Yu, he knew something. Those martial arts geniuses who are different from ordinary people do have the unique advantage that they can cultivate far faster than ordinary people. For ordinary people, 3 months may not be enough for them to reach the cultivation realm, but 1 month or 2 months is enough for them. Since that's the case, it's not too much to exaggerate. With a smile on the corner of Wang Yu's mouth, with his already gloomy face, he looked more like a thoughtful villain. Song Hejin smiled when he saw Wang Yu's mood seemed to be relaxed. Today, he is also a day to be a warm male senior. That night, Sun Chengshan was looking at the latest newspapers on the table. One of them was a press release about how he stood up for his disciples today and picked 2 veteran martial arts hall owners one after another. Once the news spreads, don't think about it, his fame in the island town will be pulled up again. The people in the island town will also accept him more as a foreign martial artist. The introductory tuition fee charged can be mentioned later. When Sun Chengshan thought of this, his bad mood today eased a lot. Fortunately, it was only a relatively ordinary disciple who was injured today. If it was Song Hejin or Ji Fei, then the negative impact of this incident would be even greater. After all, Song Hejin and Ji Fei are the current disciples of Wuying Boxing Hall, and they represent the highest level of Wuying Boxing Hall disciples to a large extent. Song Hejin's aptitude is not bad, and according to this cultivation trend, he feels like he is a late bloomer. As for Ji Fei, the aptitude shown in the early stage is even more excellent, and he is willing to stay in the boxing gym to do things. This kid has great prospects in the future, but his temperament is not as good as Song Hejin, which is always a problem. Just as Sun Chengshan was thinking about it, there was a knock on the door. Who? Come in. The door opened and Wang Yu walked in. What's the matter? Sun Chengshan remembered that Wang Yu was a disciple he had just accepted a few days ago. Listening to Song Hejin, the performance was quite good. Originally, he planned to take some time to see what a good method was, but he didn't expect Wang Yu to find it himself. Master, I took the liberty to visit tonight, mainly to report to you about cultivation. Wang Yu said calmly. Just find and be right about cultivation. What do you do here? Sun Chengshan said slightly unpleasantly. On weekdays, he would give Song Hejin full responsibility for temporarily deciding on the disciples. Only a disciple who passed the 3-month test and reached the first level of body forging would be brought to see him. On the contrary, Wang Yu was certain. He realized that as long as he didn't reveal it, even Sun Chengshan, who had cultivated at the 5th stage of body forging, would not have noticed that he had broken through his cultivation. Of course, it's also possible that people didn't think about it at all. After all, Wang Yu has only been here for 8 days. Master, I have practiced the basic boxing of Wu Yingchuan to perfection, reaching the first level of forging, and I also asked the master to teach the follow-up boxing. Wang Yu's gentle words were like a thunderbolt, hitting Sun Qingshan's heart. Sun Qingshan was taken aback for a moment, and then he said solemnly, "Don't be kidding." Sun Qingshan's first reaction was disbelief. "It's true," Wang Yu said seriously without changing his expression. Sun Qingshan was silent for a moment. "You will practice basic boxing." Seeing that Wang Yu was so determined, his tone was also somewhat suspicious. Wang Yu didn't talk nonsense. You read www.yuyuganshu.com directly with his hands. A set of movements is smooth, and no flaws can be picked out. Sun Qingshan's complexion was already shaking. How could he not see from his experience that Wang Yu had already practiced the basic boxing to perfection? Judging from the strength and pace of punching, it is indeed the physical strength of the first weight of forging. "You, how did you do it?" Sun Qingshan had already stood up and stared at Wang Yu with a burning gaze, as if he was looking at some rare species. Wang Yu pretended to be at a loss, and only said, "I just listened to the teachings of the senior brother on weekdays, practice diligently in the courtyard every day, and there is nothing else. You don't have to hide anything." Sun Qingshan stepped forward, his slender body that didn't look like a mountain or dew, standing in front of Wang Yu was quite intimidating. Wang Yu unconsciously took a half step back, showing a bit of panic at the right time. "Master, what do you mean? How could I deceive you? What is there to deceive?" Seeing Wang Yu's sincerity, Sun Qingshan was also a little confused. Could it be that I really missed it before? This kid is actually a martial arts prodigy. In 8 days, the basic boxing was practiced to perfection, reaching the first level of forging. Only Sun Qingshan knows how difficult it is. Of course, this is not really that no one can do it. In his early years, he had really seen such a talent in the sky, and his understanding was basically the best choice. If they practice this basic boxing style, and add a lot of precious materials to bathe and eat to assist, it can be achieved in as little as 3 or 5 days, as long as 10 days and a half months. It just made him a little unbelievable that Wang Yu in front of him was such a genius. It's as if the docile house cat who didn't know where to flee was suddenly told that it was actually a piebald tiger cub. Sun Qingshan coughed lightly, adjusted his messy mood, and said apologetically, "I misunderstood you. By the way, what's your name?" "Disciple Wang Yu." Wang Yu replied. "Wang Yu, I just broke through to the first level of body forging, and I ran out of qi and blood. I must be hungry now." Sun Qingshan's attitude changed so quickly that Wang Yu was almost unrecognizable because of his pleasantness. Wang Yu's expression didn't change, he still treated Sun Qingshan respectfully and nodded. Indeed, after the breakthrough in the morning, he felt hungry very quickly. Even if he ate a lot later, and even almost used up the last bit of his savings, this hunger was only relieved a little, but did not disappear completely. Until now, he could feel that the energy in his body was not replenished, and it was lost. "Master, I have already eaten a lot of food, why do I still feel this way?" Wang Yu told the truth about his discomfort. Sun Qingshan is obviously someone who knows the inside story, and he needs this master to help him solve his doubts. This is indeed a strange thing. Sun Qingshan smiled and said, "Hunger is just an appearance, in fact, it is the moment when your cultivation base breaks through the first level of body forging, and your body supplies too much energy at one time to strengthen your body. This causes your qi and blood to be seriously depleted at this time, and food supplementation takes time to digest and absorb, and the nutrient conversion of ordinary food is not high, and the recovery is not so fast, which keeps you in a state of starvation." Wang Yu was thoughtful, and then asked, is there no way to quickly restore this deficit? Sun Chengshan laughed, motioned Wang Yu to sit down, and said, of course there is, I'm about to give it to you. After all, he went to the large medicine cabinet by the wall. On the medicine cabinet were rows of drawers, each of which was carefully relocked, and seemed to contain a lot of valuables. Sun Chengshan opened the lock and took out an item from the drawer in the next row. From the corner of his eye, Wang Yu saw that it looked like a dried flat fish, about the size of a palm, with a tiny fin back that was bright purple, very eye-catching. There are 4 or 5 flat fish like this in the whole drawer, all of which are air-dried or roasted, and are well preserved. After taking out one, Sun Chengshan locked the drawer again, for fear that someone else would take his treasures. Sun Chengshan walked back with the flat fish. You should know this. It's the poisonous fish in the Silver Belt Sea. It's a good thing for you. Eat it. Sun Chengshan just handed the so-called poisonous fish to Wang Yu. A smell of salted fish came with a bit of fishy smell. This. Wang Yu had a strange look on his face, and quickly recalled relevant memories. Every once in a while, the Silver Belt Sea is a terrifying sea of deadly poisonous silence, which he had seen before on his return trip. However, although most of the marine organisms living in it will be killed and decomposed by the bacteria at this time, there are also organisms that are immune to the silver-striped sea toxin and survive. Initially, the people in the island town didn't focus on researching this, and they basically stayed away from this sea of poison. Until the government came to investigate and discovered that some fish or other marine organisms that could survive, in addition to complex and violent toxins and bacteria, also contained extremely rich nutrients. These nutrients are great supplements for martial artists in their cultivation. Especially in the period of fitness, it is the time when a lot of nutrients are needed to enhance the strength of the body. As long as it is handled properly and the toxins and germs are removed, it can be eaten with confidence, which is many times stronger than ordinary ingredients. As a local in the island town, Wang Yu is still very impressed by the expensive fish in the Silver Belt Sea. Because it was really too expensive, he could never afford the aquatic products here. After recalling the information, the heart that he mentioned fell, and the flat fish in his hand seemed to smell less salty. This flat-billed fish is indeed a good thing, such a big slab, I am afraid it is worth a lot of money on the market. No wonder Sun Chengshan kept it so carefully before. Master, such a precious thing. Wang Yu hesitated. Eat, since I entered my door, how could I treat you badly? In the future, I hope you can carry forward my shadowless fist. Sun Chengshan waved his hand quite boldly and said with a smile. It is completely different from the way it was carefully locked before. Seeing this, Wang Yu was no longer hypocritical. He really needed this salted fish for energy. When I took a bite, the air-dried fish was very crispy, without a trace of moisture, but the taste was not very good, and the salty smell lingered. After 3 or 2 mouthfuls, the salted fish was eaten, and there was not a single bit of the fish bone attached to it. Soon, the fish meat played a role in the body, and the warmth began to spread from the stomach, which was very comfortable, and it lasted for a few minutes before disappearing. At the same time, the feeling of depletion in the body has also eased a lot, and even the spirit is full at night. How about it? I feel the effect. Sun Chengshan said leisurely. Well, this is really a good thing. Wang Yu sighed from the bottom of his heart. In his last life, he had never eaten such a good thing. Yet, no one would have thought that such a poisonous sea is actually a treasure sea. The seabed contains a lot of treasures, and it is a great supplement for martial arts practitioners. I also took a fancy to this treasure sea, and that's why I came here to develop from thousands of miles away. Speaking of which, Sun Chengshan was also quite emotional. The 6th level of the body forging realm, the first is sad and the other is difficult. I have been grinding in the 5th level of the body forging for many years, and my cultivation has been stagnant for many years. I have practiced martial arts for more than 20 years. Maybe I can rely on this treasure sea and break my limit here. This is his expectation for this treasure sea. Wang Yu smacked his mouth, but the salty taste in his mouth had not dissipated, and he had already started to feel a little bitter. Sun Chengshan stretched out 2 fingers, pushed the tea he made with his hands, and pushed him down in front of Wang Yu. He seemed to have long expected the discomfort after eating the fish. Wang Yu immediately drank the cup with both hands according to the etiquette, removing the salty and bitter taste in his mouth. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Master, is the training after this so difficult? Whether it is him or his predecessor, he doesn't know much about this way of practicing martial arts, and those who only know how to practice martial arts can't afford to offend him. Some furious murderers even chop off people's heads if they disagree, which is extremely dangerous. It is far from the peaceful environment of the previous life. Sun Chengshan paid more and more attention to Wang Yu, the newly acquired genius disciple, and now he started chatting and sighed. You are in an island town, and you don't know the vastness of the outside world. There are differences between people, and between cultivators and cultivators. I was born in Weimo, similar to you. At the beginning of my cultivation, there was no supply of precious materials, so my cultivation was slow. Now that I can reach the 5th level of physical fitness, it is also due to luck and chance for me. Opportunities are very important, you have to fight for yourself, and you have to be rewarded by God. If you want to go further, it is difficult, difficult, difficult. Sun Chengshan said 3 hardships in a row, which shows that his current scenery in the island town is the result of the incomparable hardships before. It makes sense for Wang Yu to think about it. Everyone knows that practicing martial arts and strengthening the body is a broad and good way out, but the strong people in the eyes of others are always very few. If this road was really easy to go, it would have been overcrowded long ago. Where would it be his turn? Afterwards, Sun Chengshan gave Wang Yu a detailed account of many common senses in cultivation. After all, Wang Yu is considered to have stepped into the cultivation path, and he must know all these. Starting from tomorrow, I will personally teach you the training after Wu Yingchuan. All you have to do is work hard and don't let your talent and aptitude be buried, understand? The two chatted until late at night. Sun Chengshan pretended to be a strict teacher, and finally warned Wang Yu. Disciple, remember. Wang Yu immediately stood up and saluted. From the second day, Wang Yu disappeared from the compound. However, he was only a tentative disciple after all, and he practiced his own on weekdays. He rarely negotiated with others, and didn't attract much attention. Only a few disciples such as Song Hejin and Ji Fei knew the inside story. Wang Yu was taken care of by Sun Chengshan, and he was practicing silently in Sun Qinshan's independent courtyard. Hida Hineng, how could this kid get such care from the master? Ji Fei leaned against a gatepost in the inner courtyard and frowned as he looked at Wang Yu, who was writing down the secrets of boxing on a rock in the courtyard. Junior brother Wang's cultivation progressed very quickly, even surpassing you and me at the beginning. It is reasonable to be valued by the master, and it is not a strange thing. Song Hejin said calmly. He saw Wang Yu's cultivation speed in his eyes, but he didn't expect that he would be discovered by the master so quickly and taken away from the compound. Humph, those who didn't know thought he had already forged the first weight. Ji Fei snorted softly, dissatisfied with Song Hejin's statement. He didn't believe that he would be worse than this hairy boy who didn't know where he came from, but in less than 2 years, he reached the 3rd level of body forging. He wanted to see when Wang Yu could break through to the 1st level of forging. Shortly after the two left, Wang Yu opened his eyes and let out a long breath. Finally, I have memorized all the exercises that follow. It's exactly the same. Bring up the interface in your mind. Name, Wang Yu. Race, Human Cultivation, Forging Body 1 Weight Martial Arts, Shadowless Fist +1 in the column of Martial Arts. The note about basic boxing has disappeared. After getting the follow-up practice, it was officially changed to Shadowless Boxing, covering the basic boxing styles. According to Sun Qinshan's guidance, I learned that Wu Yingchuan is divided into 6 layers, corresponding to all the training methods from the 1st to the 6th level of body forging. In addition to training, boxing itself can also be used in actual combat. Shadowless Fist has combat characteristics such as agility and swiftness. Sun Qingshan also showed his shadowless boxing, which really opened Wang Yu's eyes. The cultivation of the 5th layer of body forging, combined with the shadowless boxing method of the 5th layer, was dazzling when he shot, and Wang Yu couldn't even find the shadow of Sun Qinshan's punch. He could only feel the wind of punches battering his face, just like a black snake bouncing up and biting its prey again and again. It was frightening and hard to guard against. One word is, quick. Next, it's time to continue practicing boxing. Wang Yu said to himself. Time flies, and in the blink of an eye, Wang Yu was almost 3 months away from starting martial arts training. In the past 3 months, he stayed out of the gate, wandered around in the boxing gym, and devoted himself to repeated boxing practice. Although it was boring, there was always a visible improvement every day, and the accumulation bit by bit also made him more and more integrated into the martial arts of this world, and he enjoyed it. It is worth mentioning that the tentative disciples who came in at the same time as him basically all left and scattered, and few really reached the 1st level of body forging. Li Niushan, his roommate who once lived with him, passed this test by virtue of his good root bone aptitude, reaching the 1st level of body forging and truly entered the door. It was a pity that Wang Sanhua failed to pass the martial arts and left. Boom! In the courtyard, Li Niushan punched the wooden stake in front of him to practice boxing. Because of his natural energy, after practicing shadowless boxing, not only the speed of punching is fast, but also the strength attached to the punch is great. The movement caused by the time is really not small. Morning. Wang Yu came to the compound wearing a black training suit that was a disciple of shadowless boxing gym, and greeted Li Niushan when he saw him. The silent Li Niushan nodded, morning. His voice was relatively dull, like a cow's cry, as the name of the real person. After saying hello, the two of them practiced separately. Since Wang Yuxiu reached the 1st level of body forging, he moved to a separate room. In fact, the two of them were only more familiar with each other than the other disciples. When he came to a wooden stake in the corner, it was almost his exclusive boxing position. Few people would come to this corner to disturb him. After moving the joints a little, Wang Yu took a deep breath and punched out, hitting the top of the stake like lightning. Boom! The stake suddenly trembled violently, and at the same time a +2 proficiency number emerged from the punch. Immediately afterwards, he moved, his fists flew, and he quickly hit the stake. There are constant numbers jumping, some only add a little proficiency, and most add 2 points at a time. Wang Yu's expression remained the same. This was what he had discovered before. If you practice boxing against the air, your boxing proficiency can only be improved a little bit. And if you practice against a boxing stake, most of the time you can get 2 points of boxing proficiency at one time. The conclusion is that the proficiency obtained will vary depending on the object of practice. For this reason, he also found a master Sun Qingshan for training. In his opinion, Sun Qingshan is the strongest in the boxing gym. Taking him as a boxing target, his proficiency will inevitably increase more. And the fact is, as he thought, the proficiency of Sun Qinshan's training has been greatly improved, and the efficiency is almost 3 to 5 times that of piling. It's a pity that there are not many such opportunities. Sun Qingshan doesn't know what he is busy with on weekdays. He often goes out and runs without seeing anyone. Even in a boxing gym, you need to give pointers to others, and no matter how much you pay attention to him, it is impossible to spend so much time practicing boxing with him. Later, he also asked Li Niushan to practice against each other. At first, when he was in the 1st stage of body forging, the efficiency was indeed higher than that of piling. But when his cultivation level also reached the 2nd level of forging, the efficiency of going to Li Niushan to practice boxing was greatly reduced. That's right, in less than 3 months, he completed the second level of boxing proficiency again. The cultivation base has also reached the second level of body forging at the same time. Correspondingly, his physical strength has also been transformed and strengthened once again. Li Niushan, who was only in the first weight of forging, often fell down before he could take a few punches. In this case, it would be better to practice with a wooden stake that can be refilled indefinitely. Even if it breaks, you can change it in the boxing gym. He also thought about switching to other disciples with the second level cultivation level of body forging, but he was not familiar with the disciples who had a little strength on weekdays. Most of the people who can stay in the courtyard for a long time are tentative disciples who have not yet passed the test, or those who have just passed the test. Or perhaps it was senior brother Song Hejin, who was in charge. It's just that this senior brother is also very busy. He has to practice boxing himself and also guide the disciples in the academy, so he can't spare much extra time to practice with him. Otherwise, he is a good experience baby. Bang bang bang! With a series of violent beating sounds, Wang Yu quickly punched, hitting the wooden stakes violently. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. At this time, he also had a bit of the fierce shadow of Sun Chengshan when he punched. He didn't stop until he was exhausted and exhausted. He was sweating profusely and panting like a cow. The cultivation base has improved, and the physical strength has also improved. Accumulating proficiency is actually faster. The third layer of this shadowless boxing should be a matter of 2 or 3 months. According to what the master said, the first 3 levels of boxing are relatively easy to achieve perfection, and the last 3 levels are the major hurdles. Wang Yu thought to himself, looking at the shattered wooden stake in front of him. Next time I'll change to an iron stake, the wooden stake is somewhat untouched. The proficiency feedback given to the piles of the 2 materials is not much different except for the different resistance. He has already tried this. In addition, if you practice boxing within a period of time when the treasures are eaten and they are effective, the increase in proficiency can also be greatly improved. Taking the salted fish collected by Sun Chengshan as an example, after eating one, the proficiency efficiency of boxing can basically be doubled within 2 hours, and then decay according to time, and the impact can reach up to 1 day at most. It's a pity that Sun Chengshan didn't have a few of these good things here. In 3 months, he gave Wang Yu 2, respectively, when he reached the first level of body forging and the second level of body forging. Treasures. Wang Yu missed the salty and bitter taste of the dried fish. If I eat that fish every day, I'm afraid I've already done the third level body forging. It's a pity that I can't buy this thing even if I have money. When it comes to money, Wang Yu's situation is also a little embarrassing. After initially paying the tuition fees, he only had a fraction of the money left over for his meals. Now, even that fraction is gone. If it goes on like this, he may even have a problem with his daily meals. You have to find a way to make money. There is an office at the gate of the martial arts hall. There is a table and a chair, and a disciple is on duty there. From time to time, people from the island would come to this office to entrust their work. After listening to the delegator's description, the person on duty will categorize and post it according to the difficulty of the commissioned content, remuneration, and other conditions. It is up to the disciples in the martial arts hall to freely accept the entrustment to complete it. According to the regulations, 2 of the remunerations obtained are traded in the martial arts hall, and the rest goes to the martial arts hall disciples themselves. This office is not only set up in Wuying Boxing Gym, but in almost all martial arts gyms in the town. This is already a major branch of the martial arts gym. The reason why this happens is because the background of the world Wang Yu lives in is too bizarre. The entire human race is not on the same planet. As far as Wang Yu knows so far, humans occupy 7 planets in the galaxy. That's right, he can be considered to have traveled to an interstellar era, but it is very different from the interstellar travel he knows, and even the composition of the universe seems to be different. The level of science and technology displayed by human beings is far behind the information age in which Wang Yu lived in his previous life, and the development direction is also very different. Many things that should be there are not. For example, there are cars and airships, but no planes and rockets. Not even a series of destructive thermal weapons. Humans cannot lift off and fly off the surface of the planet, because according to legend, in the endless darkness outside the planet, in addition to no air, it is also full of dead air. No living body can survive in the dead air, and no matter how tightly armed it is, it cannot resist the infiltration of the dead air. When traveling between planets, human beings rely on something called a magnetic door. The planet where Wang Yu lives is the fifth broken star occupied by humans. It is a semi-habitable mini-planet. There are only a few large and small islands where humans can live and develop on the planet. According to Wang Yu's knowledge, the entire fragmented star number 5 is still in a relatively chaotic period of separate countries. Every place on the broken star is an extension of a big country. Due to the long distance from the main star, the scheduling is not timely enough, and the population here is mixed, so the control will cause the phenomenon beyond the reach of the whip. The top government officials on Broken Star will at most guarantee that the territory will not be lost, that the general direction of the national policy will be unified, and that incidents such as riots and rebellions will not occur. However, it is difficult to cover all aspects of local security issues. Not to mention some trivial livelihood issues, the people on the island are far less efficient than looking for the martial artists in the martial arts hall instead of dragging them off with the local security department. And as long as the warriors in the martial arts hall don't mess around, the local government basically turns a blind eye, as if nothing happened. In recent days, with Sun Qinshan's outstanding achievements in the gym, Wuying Boxing Gym has gradually become more famous in the town. When more and more people encounter troubles that cannot be solved, they will come to the office of Wuying Boxing Gym for entrustment. On this day, Zhang Erden was on duty in the office, and he sat there bored and yawned early in the morning. A tentative disciple swept the ground honestly at the gate of the courtyard. At this time, the sky was bright and there were not many people walking around on the street. Suddenly, a person came quickly, and he seemed to have walked a lot of sweat, and went straight to the office of Wuying Boxing Gym. "I want to entrust, hurry up, find someone to help me." The person who came to hold the corner of the table and said anxiously to Erden Zhang. "No matter how urgent it is, I have to speak slowly. According to the procedure, how can our disciples be dispatched casually?" Zhang Erden casually took out the pen and paper. "Name. Second Meng. Address. I'm a family living under the Nanshan Mausoleum. The newly cultivated fields of my family are about to be robbed. Please help me." Meng Lao asked eagerly. Zhang Erden looked up at him. "Tell me what's going on in detail. Who wants to rob your farm? Why are they staring at them?" And although Zhang Erden is not a person, he doesn't dare to be too negligent when he does this. After all, this is also a revenue business of the martial arts hall. If Sun Chengshan knew that someone was not taking this business seriously, he would definitely not be polite. After a detailed question and answer description, Zhang Erden put away the paper after going through the process. "Okay, let's wait for the news. The reward you gave is not bad, and the task is not difficult. I believe there will be disciples who will pass by soon." After Meng Lao heard this, his face became even more anxious. "How long will it take?" "They will definitely come back today. By then, our house will be over, and it will be over." Zhang Erden's face was already somewhat impatient. "Then you should take your family to hide outside first. Our martial arts hall has received a lot of commissions these days, and they are also very anxious. You are not the only one." Meng Lao wanted to continue, but suddenly heard a soft call from a courtyard not far away. "Uncle Meng, why are you here?" Meng Lao was stunned for a moment, then turned his head to see that it was Wang Yu. You, Why are you here? Still wearing. When Meng Lao Er saw Wang Yu, he quickly noticed what Wang Yu was wearing. Suddenly, he turned his head to look at Zhang Erden and then at Wang Yu. The two of them wore the exact same boxing gym disciple clothes. Uncle Meng, you asked me to find a way out of mining. No, I'm here to practice boxing. Wang Yu smiled, and when he saw Meng Lao Er again, he was quite cordial. He has no acquaintances in this town. Meng Lao Er didn't know what to say for a while. He really wanted Wang Yu to find another way out, but he didn't expect Wang Yu to be so capable and become a disciple of the martial arts hall. The change was so great that he was surprised. Did Uncle Meng encounter any trouble? Wang Yu approached the office and asked. Meng Lao Er gave a wry smile, and only then recovered from the shock. He didn't have time to be happy for Wang Yu. Seeing that he was a disciple of the boxing gym, he was about to repeat the matter. It turned out that after coming back from this trip, Meng Lao Er finally made up his mind not to go mining. With the money he had saved, he bought tools and planned to cultivate farmland in his own land, so as to make a living and be able to accompany his wife all the time. Beside the child. In the 3 months since he came back, he has been busy with the fields. Until a group of people suddenly came over recently, Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com wanted to buy his land. When Mr. Meng refused, there was a conflict between the two sides. The group became more and more fierce, threatening to bury their family alive. Meng Lao Er was a little panicked. Originally, he went to the town's Public Security Bureau. For this kind of life-threatening matter, the Public Security Bureau will still take care of it. But the other party was very thief. As soon as he saw someone from the Security Bureau, he turned his head and disappeared without a trace. For a few days, people from the Public Security Bureau came, but they couldn't help him look at the fields all the time. The second brother Meng himself was only intimidated, and he didn't suffer any real harm. The Public Security Bureau was tense, and there was no way to dispatch a large number of human resources to help Meng Lao Er hunt down. In desperation, Meng Lao Er could only come to the boxing gym for help. After listening to it, Wang Yu almost understood the cause and effect, and said to Erden Zhang, "How difficult is this commission?" Zhang Erden glanced at the contents of the commission he had recorded, and said, "The other party is just a group of ordinary gangsters, but there are quite a lot of them, and the difficulty is not too big. It is recommended that the commissioner be 3 body forging and first-level cultivation disciples, or 1 forging. The second-level disciple of the body, the remuneration is negotiated as 200 broken crystal coins." "Okay, I'll take this entrustment, register it." Wang Yu nodded. "That's all right, junior brother Wang, pay attention to safety." Zhang Erden had no objection, and casually wrote the words Wang Yu on the order. "Well, let's go, Uncle Meng, I'll take a look with you," Wang Yu said. Originally, he had thought about finding some simple commissions these days to earn some living expenses. "When I saw Meng Lao Er coming over, just when I could entrust him, I helped him solve this trouble. It can be regarded as repaying the kindness of mine for helping him back then." On the way, Meng Lao Er was a little uneasy as he walked. "Xiaohu, there are about 10 people on the other side, is there really no problem?" Second Meng still hesitated. Mainly for a time, it was difficult for him to switch from the weak youth in the mine and the martial artist Wang Yu in front of him. "I was also worried that Wang Yu would be dragged down by him and suffered heavy losses. I haven't seen them, and I'm not 100% sure." Wang Yu said solemnly. "Be safe, Uncle Meng, take your family out of there first, and it won't be too late to come back when things calm down." Although Wang Yu already has the second-level body forging cultivation, which is more than enough to deal with more than a dozen ordinary people, he will not be overconfident because of this. Brother Hitai, who was in the same boxing gym at the time, didn't do double body forging. As a result, he was severely injured after eating a meal, and it took 2 months to lie down in the medical center. In his opinion, the second-level cultivation of body forging is nothing at all, and it should not even be outside the gate of the boxing gym. How dangerous the outside world is! If it weren't for the fact that he really had no money and saw that Meng Lao was in trouble, he would not have chosen to accept the commission at this time and leave the gym. Okay. I will send my wife and children to the island town hotel for a while, but I will not leave with you. Meng Lao gritted his teeth. He was mining in the mine, and his muscles were very strong. Although he was not as good as a serious martial artist, but with a hoe, he could at least deal with 1 or 2 gangsters. Uncle, don't worry, even if I don't succeed this time, I'll call the master when it's a big deal. Wang Yu said seriously. In fact, if Sun Chengshan wasn't in the gym today, he would have shouted. Given the importance Sun Chengshan places on him now, most of his colleagues' requests will be granted. Xiaohu, I really don't know how to thank you. Meng Lao said movingly. It's all right, uncle, without you in the mine, I might have collapsed long ago, and I wouldn't be able to return to Daojhen alive today. Wang Yu said slowly. Meng Lao was the first person he came to help him, and he still had a lot of weight in his heart. Enough for him to take a risk out of the gym. Nanshan Mausoleum is a general term for a hilly area in the inland. Because the place is far away from the town center, those who are willing to live here have slightly better conditions than those in Mouse Street, and they are considered poor. Otherwise, Meng Lao would not have worked in the harsh environment of the mine for several years. Under a low mountain, Meng Lao's family lives here. A relatively old brick and mud house surrounded by a fence and thatch. In addition to being backed by a low mountain, there are high mountains on both sides, which have a certain effect of sheltering from wind and rain. At first glance, the only place in the vicinity that Meng Lao chose was flat land, and the other land was either a or a low hill, and it was impossible to build houses and live in at all. With a radius of 1 kilometer, there is only one family of Meng Lao. I have to say that Meng Lao's thinking in choosing the location is very peculiar. When Wang Yu got closer, before he could take a closer look, he heard the sound of slamming the door inside. Meng Lao also heard the movement, his face changed greatly, and he rushed back immediately. Wang Yu frowned. He didn't expect the other party to come in such a hurry. He came to do evil early in the morning, and immediately walked into the small courtyard surrounded by fences. In the yard, there were a group of young people in their 20s, laughing happily, and some of them were holding sticks in their hands. However, they are full of local ruffians, and they are afraid that others will not recognize their identities. One of them is constantly kicking the door with his foot, trying to force his way into the house. The child's frightened cry could be heard in the room. You bastards! Meng Lao who rushed into the yard, widened his eyes angrily, grabbed the he was leaning on, and was about to fight against this group of people. However, Wang Yu pressed his shoulders in time, and with a little force on his hand, Meng Lao was held in place. Yo, I thought you were hiding inside and didn't dare to say a word, so you're looking for someone. Wang Xioma laughed, weighing the iron rod in one hand, without paying any attention to Meng Lao who was holding a hoe inside. As for Wang Yu, who was in his teens with his bare hands, he looked even less threatening. They have a dozen or so heroes, and they can kill anyone with a stick. I advise you to be acquainted with each other and hand over all the land deeds and house deeds here. We have run out of patience. Wang Xioma sneered. Brother Ma, don't talk nonsense with him, you dared to report to the officials before, so you can break your hands and feet before talking about it. A younger brother said fiercely. Did you hear? If you don't hand over anything, I'll even break your son's hands and feet today. Wang Xioma said, smashing a stick on the door behind him. With a bang, the door panel finally couldn't bear it, and it started to crack. Beast! Meng Lao was trembling with anger, and at the same time regretted it. I left in such a hurry in the morning that I lost my head. I had known that I had brought my wife and children out with me. Wang Xiaoma, relying on the number of people, has to be as strong as possible. Obviously, he has eaten Ding Meng's second child. Wang Yu glanced around and asked calmly, Uncle Meng, was this group of people in front of you the only ones who came before? Are there any leaks? Meng Lao heard Wang Yu's question, and then he came back to his senses. This time, Wang Yu was still there. It seems that there is still a leader who didn't come today. Meng Lao recalled the group of people who came to commit the crime before. It was not Xiaoma Wang who led the team at that time, but someone else. Idiot, do you still need my eldest brother to come out to settle you? I really don't cry without seeing the coffin. Wang Xiaoma shouted lowly, giving a few younger brothers a look. 4 of the younger brothers understood and rushed towards Wang Yu and Wang Yu. They all had sticks as weapons in their hands. The one who ran fast came first, and the very thief picked Wang Yu, who seemed to be easier to deal with. Go to hell! When he was hit in the head with a stick, if an ordinary person was hit in the head, he would probably fall to the ground. Meng Lao instinctively picked up his hoe, trying to block Wang Yu and smash it in front of him. But he was dragged behind by Wang Yu ahead of time, and at the same time kicked out like a whip, hitting the gangster on the waist. The gangster didn't even react, and was kicked to the side, just hitting the other 2 rushing companions. After falling to the ground, the gangster who was hit by Wang Yu only felt a severe pain in the waist, as if even the kidneys in that position had been kicked out at one time. Then Wang Yu stepped forward and punched out like a dragon, hitting the other gangster in the chest. He has practiced the second level of Shadowless Fist, and his Kung Fu is more focused on his double fists. With this lightning-quick punch, no one on the scene could capture the way Wang Yuxing punched. With just one punch, the bastard's sternum was broken, blood gushing out of his mouth, and he fell to the ground. Wang Yu frowned slightly as he watched this scene. He has already saved a little of his boxing power. He is usually in the boxing gym and is used to seeing the brothers fighting. This is the first time to fight with ordinary people, and it seems that I have used too much force. Seeing this scene, the other 2 gangsters who came together shuddered and froze in place, not daring to move. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com. Meng Lao mind was hot, and his wife and children were still in the house, so he couldn't help shouting, took a hoe, and smashed the gangsters on top of them, making them scream. When Wang Xiaoma saw that the 4 younger brothers were easily dealt with by the other 2, his face was ashen. Come on, give them to me, and clean them up together. However, the remaining thugs were some who did not dare to approach the awe-inspiring Wang Yu. After all, they were just a bunch of rabble, and even the crazy second Meng, holding a hoe, made them feel terrified. What are you afraid of? There are so many of us. Wang Xiaoma jumped angrily. It's not quite right, you, look at what he's wearing, doesn't he look like the clothes worn by the disciples in the martial arts hall? A gangster suddenly exclaimed in shock. When Wang Yu was taken seriously, his identity became clearer. A disciple of the martial arts hall. As long as it is not a tentative disciple, no matter how bad it is a martial artist with the first level of body forging. The combat power is not something that ordinary people can compare. Although these gangsters didn't immediately recognize that Wang Yu was wearing the Wuying Boxing Gym's uniform, they were not stupid. At this time, the identity of Wang Yu's disciple was determined. How is that possible? Wang Xiaoma shouted, but he was already panicking, and his feet moved backward little by little. Wang Yu didn't say anything and walked towards them calmly. Run! The remaining gangsters couldn't stand Wang Yu's persecution any longer. Their status as warriors was enough to make them feel intimidated, so they turned around and ran away. Among them, Xiaoma Wang was the fastest and earliest one. However, Wang Yu didn't intend to let them run just like that, and chased after them with a stride. Naturally, his speed is not comparable to this group of thugs. He easily catches up with a punch and knocks him down. The last Wang Xiaoma jumped out of the fence, ran a few hundred meters in a hurry, and fell to the ground with a soft foot. Wang Yu slowly approached with an expressionless face. No, no, my eldest brother, he is also a martial artist. If you do anything to me, he will never let you go. Wang Xiaoma said in a panic. It's like a threat, and it's like gibberish in a panic. Wang Yu narrowed his eyes, reached out and grabbed the collar of Wang Xiaoma's clothes, and lifted it up easily. When he raised his hand, he punched Wang Xiaoma in the abdomen and almost vomited him directly. She curled up in pain, unable to speak again. Wang Yu carried him with one hand and dragged him back to Second Meng's yard. Uncle Meng, if this person is in charge of everything, just kill the one who was buried outside the town for 100 times, and he will come to retaliate against you in the future. The pain in Wang Xiaoma's abdomen was slightly relieved, and he heard Wang Yu's voice. The discussion was to kill him and bury his body, and now he was completely panicked. Well, it's not good. After all, this is an island town. If we are found out, we will all be finished. This is Meng Lao Er's voice. He seems to be hesitant to do such a thing. What's wrong? You forgot what he wanted to do to your family before. As long as we keep our hands and feet clean, it's common for people in the wilderness to die. It's not a pity for such a person to die. Wang Xiaoma's whole body trembled when he heard it, and he almost didn't get scared to pee, but he still had the slightest air before, and immediately begged for mercy before Wang Yu made his move. Wang Yu looked at him indifferently, raised his foot and stepped on Wang Xiaoma's waist, almost breaking his waist. In fact, what he said was just to scare the other party and facilitate the subsequent torture. Name? Wang Yu asked after Wang Xiaoma's pain. My name is Xiaoma Wang. After being tortured, Wang Xiaoma had long lost the heart to resist. Facing Wang Yu's torture, he said everything. Soon, Wang Yu found out the details of this group of people. They are the wandering people in the area of Nanshan Mausoleum, commonly known as local rascals. On weekdays, it is to extort money from some ordinary people. Wang Xiaoma is the leader of this group of local ruffians. He has an elder brother named Wang Feng. In the early years, I went to other islands and towns for a period of time, but I didn't expect that when I came back later, I became a real martial artist. This time, the reason why he started to grab Meng Lao Er's real estate is because of Wang Feng's instructions. What's your brother's cultivation? Wang Yu then cross-examined. Forging, body forging double. Wang Xiaoma replied shrinkingly. Why did he rob the premises here? When Wang Xiaoma heard this question, he hesitated a little, until he saw that Wang Yu's face became fierce again, and then he hurriedly answered. I also listened to the elder brother himself, because there is a mineral vein under the ground. He said it was very valuable, let's keep quiet and take up the land first. Wang Yu and Meng Lao looked at each other. When they heard the mineral vein, their expressions changed. Meng Lao Er's breathing was much more rapid and his heart was beating wildly. They are all former miners, so they naturally know the value behind a vein. No matter what kind of mineral vein it is, as long as it is discovered, it is tantamount to discovering a treasure trove. Where are the ore veins? Wang Yu said coldly. Wang Xiaoma grimaced and said tremblingly, I really don't know about this, eldest brother, uncle, just let me go. Wang Yu ignored the other party's pleas, and slammed it again, confirming that he really didn't know before giving up. Xiao. Meng Lao didn't know what to do for a while. The news that there is a mineral vein under his house is too shocking for him. Even Wang Yu didn't expect this to be the reason, beyond his expectations. Uncle Meng, don't worry, this matter has to be confirmed. Wang Yu said. The ore vein was not found, and this incident may have been made by Wang Xiaoma's eldest brother. Then, he simply went directly with Meng Lao and the two to tie the group of thugs with thick ropes. In order to ensure the authenticity of what Wang Xiaoma said, Wang Yu then questioned the other gangsters individually. What they said was basically the same as what Wang Xiaoma said. They didn't know about the ore veins and Wang Feng's cultivation strength. However, how does Wang Feng know that there are mineral veins here? Meng Lao frowned. Wang Yu looked around and said, "This piece of land is so big, Uncle Meng, let's look for it." "It is good." Meng Lao first asked his wife to leave with their young son, and then the two began to turn the field inside and out. It didn't take a moment for Meng Lao to find clues in the backyard field he had just cultivated. Xiao. When Wang Yu heard the call, he immediately went to the backyard. The backyard of Meng Lao's house is a field that he has cultivated himself. Originally, he planned to grow some fruits and vegetables. The field spread all the way to the foot of the low hills, bordered by a steep slope. At this moment, Meng Lao was staring at this steep non-stop. "Xiao, do you smell it?" Meng Lao touched the steep and said quickly. When Wang Yu heard this, he moved closer. With the second-level cultivation of body forging, his body has undergone 2 transformations in various aspects, and his sense of smell is even more sensitive. Immediately, I smelled a special smell that diffused out, a little earthy mixed with copper rust. Yes. Wang Yu's heart moved. This smell, he smelled a lot when he was working in the mine. I smelled it when I was digging the soil a few days ago, and I thought it was the residual effect of my staying in the mine for too long. But now it seems that there might be a ore vein here. Meng Lao only felt hot all over his body. He touched the steep slope, suddenly raised his iron and knocked on the corner of the steep slope. Chong! Several pieces of rubble were smashed and fell, exposing the surface of the rock blocks inside. Between the blue-gray, there are some faint purple lines. This is it. Meng Lao stretched out his finger and rubbed the purple line for a while, and then put it under his nose to smell it. It turned out to be the purple coal mine. Meng Lao had much richer mining experience than Wang Yu, and recognized the ore in front of him at a glance. Looking at this low mountain, even if there are purple coal veins here, the size should be limited, and I don't know how much it can produce. After a simple survey, Meng Lao said condensedly. He was in a very complicated mood at this time. Excited and ecstatic, but also worried. He is excited that there is a ore vein in his own land, but he is worried that the good or bad of this ore vein is still unknown to him. Yu reading www.yuyugonshu.com now. Some people have already coveted this vein, and even forced their family of 3 to submit to it. And once the news of this vein leaked out, more people knew about it. It is difficult to guarantee that no one will take the risk and endanger their family's life for this mine. This mineral vein is a bit hot for him. Xiao, what do you think uncle should do? After thinking about it for a long time, Meng Lao instinctively asked Wang Yu. Just now, Wang Yu easily dealt with this group of ruffians, and the powerful fighting power he showed made him feel a lot of security. Wang Yu naturally knew that this was not a trivial matter, and the appearance of ore veins had long gone beyond the scope of the entrustment. Uncle Meng, you also know that if you don't have a strongman to protect you, you probably won't be able to keep this vein, and you won't be able to keep it for long. Wang Yu said. I know this. Meng Lao sighed again and again. Even if you want to mine privately, the movement will not be small, plus there is a powerful warrior like Wang Yu who is staring at it. Too dangerous. It's a really uncomfortable feeling to have a treasure mountain in the air, but you can't just keep it for yourself. Then only hand over the mine to the government, which should be able to exchange for some money, rather than get nothing. Wang Yu suggested. But in fact, the incentives and subsidies given by the government are unlikely to be too many. It just depends on the conscience of local officials, and it is far less than the value of a ore vein. Meng Lao clenched in his hand, stared at the lavender pattern on the rock block in front of him, and hesitated to make this decision. Everyone has desires. With such a huge wealth in front of them, how many people can keep rational and abandon them? especially a poor family like Meng Lao Er. Meng Lao Er's voice was dry and said, Xiao Yu, Uncle Meng is afraid of being poor. Is there any other way? Wang Yu understood what Meng Lao Er was thinking, and he thought in a different position. He was somewhat unable to hand over this mineral vein. Uncle Meng, although I am a martial artist, I have not practiced martial arts for a long time. I am afraid that I alone cannot help you occupy this mine. If you really want it, there may be a way to give it a shot, but it may not be feasible. What's the solution? Meng Lao Er immediately asked, his eyes full of hope when he heard the drama. My master is the owner of the Shadowless Boxing Gym, and his cultivation has reached the 5th level of body forging. If he can contribute to this matter, he may be able to let you down this mine. Of course, if you want to impress him, you have to get a share of the profits from this mine. What Wang Yu thought of was nothing more than bringing in a strong man with a strong face in the town, so that even if the benefits generated by the ore veins would be divided up. But as long as this strongman has a reliable character, and the rest of the proceeds are distributed to Old Man Meng, he can definitely make a fortune, and even turn over and reach the pinnacle of his life. Of course, whether he is willing or not depends on Meng Lao Er himself. Wang Yu is only giving advice. Mr. Meng was obviously hesitant. Xiaoyu, will your master? He was not familiar with Sun Chengshan, but he was worried that Sun Chengshan would be disadvantageous to him after the mine was exposed. No wonder he is, after being hurt once, anyone will be sensitive. Wang Yu sighed and said, Uncle, as much profit as you want, you have to take as much risk. Relatively speaking, a person like my master who has a face in the town will act more prudently and won't mess around. Of course, if you don't want to, then you can just pretend I didn't mention it. In fact, according to Wang Yu's understanding of Sun Chengshan during this period of time, although this person is a little greedy for money, he also has a bottom line of principles. Coupled with his coordination as an intermediary, as long as both parties agree to sign the contract, the matter is basically done. Meng Lao Er finally gritted his teeth and said, Okay, Xiaoyu, I believe in you, even if I can only get 20% in the end. No, I can get 10% of the profit from the ore vein. Based on Meng Lao Er's knowledge of this purple coal mine, the seemingly small 10% income is enough for him to make a fortune. Okay. Wang Yu nodded. Since Second Meng has made a decision, I believe Sun Chengshan will never refuse. At the moment, he first drove all the gangsters away, and then hurried back to the boxing gym with Meng Lao Er. It was noon when he came back, and Erden Zhang was still sitting listlessly in the office. Hey, junior brother Wang, you came back so soon, have you finished the commission? Zhang Erden asked. Not yet, is the master back? Wang Yu asked, whether it is entrusted or not, it is not important now. Oh, let's look for a master. He just came back and is in the back room. Erden Wang pointed and said. Uncle, wait here first. After Wang Yu said that, he went straight into the inner courtyard. Zhang Erden couldn't help sighing when he saw it. That's great, I also want to be taken care of by the master. Wang Yu is the third disciple in the boxing gym who can freely enter and leave the inner courtyard. The first two are the elder brother Song Hejin and the talented Ji Fei. And Wang Yu also enjoys such privileges, naturally because Sun Chengshan paid enough attention to him and opened a small kitchen for him. No matter how low-key Wang Yu is on weekdays, he can't hide this. Entering the inner courtyard alone, he knocked on Sun Chengshan's door. Sun Chengshan was sitting on the reclining chair by the window with his eyes closed, and when he saw Wang Yu coming in, he couldn't help but ask, What's the matter? Master, how do you see that you are often not in the gym recently? Wang Yu didn't come up and explained his purpose directly. In the past 3 months, the communication between the two has also become more familiar, and they are not as close as they were at the beginning. Humph, stinky boy, do you think the boxing gym is so easy to open? There are many places where you need to move around. Sun Chengshan snorted softly and shook the reclining chair gently. Have you been confused about your cultivation recently? Wang Yu shook his head, no. Yet. Sun Chengshan nodded, and continued, of all the disciples I have taught, you are the one who gives me the most peace of mind and the highest talent. You have reached the second level of body forging in less than 3 months. Cultivation. This is really amazing, but you must always remember to guard against arrogance and impatience. You must know the strength of the second level body forging cultivation, which is really nothing in the island town, so you can bully ordinary people. Sun Qinshan's tireless daily reminder. Disciple, keep this in mind. Wang Yu said calmly. Since it's not a matter of cultivation, it's what you came to do with me. First, let me tell you that I don't have any fish or meat. If you want it, you can only wait for the next high tide. Sun Chengshan said lightly, never opening his eyes from beginning to end. It has nothing to do with fish and meat. This time the disciple is here to discuss a business with the master. After a few small chats, Wang Yu didn't intend to delay any longer, but went straight to the topic. What business? Sun Chengshan chuckled lightly. He didn't seem to expect that the young disciple Wang Yu would suddenly come to him to do business. Wang Yu couldn't hear Sun Qinshan's smile, obviously he didn't care about the business he said. His expression remained calm and unchanged. Yu reading www.yuyuganshu.com said slowly and unhurriedly, a purple coal vein. Hey! Sun Chengshan opened his eyes slightly and looked at Wang Yu. Wang Yu told about Meng Lao Er in general, along with the cooperation ideas he gave. Master, you should know the value of such a purple coal mine, no matter how small it is. This business depends on whether you want to do it or not. After listening to what Wang Yu said, Sun Chengshan was not even half sleepy at this time, the light from his eyes was brighter than ever. He squinted at Wang Yu, humph, are you underestimating being a teacher? Even if our Wuying boxing gym lacks the foundation, but the strength is on the bright side, what can't we do? Since the master is willing to cooperate, then I will invite him in. Wang Yu said with a slight smile. Yes. Sun Chengshan agreed. Soon, Mr. Meng walked in. I have seen Master Sunday. Sun Chengshan nodded, looked at Meng Lao Er up and down, and said, I have already heard Xiaohu talk about the mineral vein. First of all, congratulations to Brother Meng on his rapid growth. Meng Lao Er looked overjoyed, so you agreed. This is a win-win deal, and I have no reason to refuse. Sun Chengshan smiled, making Meng Lao Er even more excited. However, I still need to conduct an actual inspection before negotiating a series of terms of the contract with you. Of course, of course. Meng Lao Er nodded repeatedly. Let's lead the way, it's not too late, let's go now. Sun Chengshan said to Wang Yu. As soon as possible, Sun Chengshan looked calm on the face, but Wang Yu could also feel the urgency in Sun Qinshan's heart. Otherwise, I wouldn't want to leave immediately and go check the mines in person.